It is time to see who can perform well here in the Rafa Racing Club Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain for the penultimate time this season for 2025. And we're here at Donington Park racing on the Grand Prix layout. Hello everybody, my name is Paul Smith. I will be joined in a bit by David Addison, who's having to hot-foot it into the virtual commentary booth after his British GT duties. But what an exciting round we have got coming up for you. The championship, well, it's getting closer and closer at the head of the field, and we will see some tremendous racing between our championship protagonists, that is for sure. This is where we have been so far this season. We started all the way back in January at Silverstone on the national layout there. We then headed to Snetterton before going to Hampshire for the first time in the series history at Thruxton. Alton Park in the wet and damp conditions saw us to the midway point of the season. We then went across the sea over the North Sea to Zandvoort for our annual trip away before then heading north of the border. Change of the original plan, we headed to Knock Hill, and my goodness did that give us some great drama last time out. Donington Park, as I say, is the penultimate week of the championship before, in a few weeks' time, we head to Brands Hatch for season finale. And here is how things look right now. It's just 14 points separating Sebastian Job and Luke McEwen at the top of the standings. It's getting ever closer at the head of the field. Leo Garibaldi has just recently been promoted from the academy team to the full Apex Racing team. Congratulations to him, and he's doing well in third place ahead of his teammate Peter Berryman in fourth. Will Chadwick's had a tumultuous season, I think it's fair to say. He's fifth ahead of Matt Caruana, new race winner, sixth ahead of Alexander Davidson, Isaac Price, David Williams and Crofton Woodhatch, all three of those sharing the same points. In AM, it's Aidan Walshingham who's got a 10-point lead over Guy Edwards. Walshingham with that great run of form, 4 AM race wins in a row. Can he make it a further 2 race wins? Well, Guy Edwards will be hoping not. Christian Zaruta, not that far back either, is in third place ahead of Tom Stevens with Daniel Cofield, Scott Merckx, Adam Cox, Sam Fitzpatrick, Oliver Etheridge and Conan Whelan rounding out the top 10 in AM. So that is how things stand right now. As I said, last time out at Knock Hill, we had plenty of drama, especially in that second race of the day, because you had both Sebastian Job and Luke McEwen make mistakes at the chicane, and that has caused a real mix-up of point scoring last time out. Well, we're getting ourselves set then for this one. Qualifying is about to be starting, and it's the Apex Racing team who have been really performing really well for themselves in the practice, the warm-up, before we've headed into qualifying. If you're new to the series, well, you have got 10 minutes of qualifying to set yourself a lap time and a position on the grid. There are bonus points for pole position for both AM and Pro as well, so those two places will be able to get themselves into some more point scoring in their championship campaign. But it's the Grand Prix layout here at Donington Park. It's the it's just over 4 kilometres in length, 12 turns around this historic venue, and held a Grand Prix back in 1993, which that was really a big achievement for them to do on one of the wettest days of the year, if I recall.
You are not wrong.
And thankfully for the audience, I'm joined hot-footing from the commentary box of British GT, David Addison. Hello.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
Well, you've had a very busy day so far today with an exciting racing earlier on, and now you get even more excitement with the esports side of things.
Indeed, yeah, we've literally, here at Donington, just come off air from British GT, which I can't say was a great race for Porsche, sadly, because the one GT3 entry ended up with a lot of damage. But I'm well versed in Donington. I've seen a lot of it over the last day and a half, and I noticed that normality is kind of being restored in our Esports Carrera Cup GB Championship with Sebastian Job at the top of the times right now.
Yes, we've just literally started qualifying. The first lap times are going to be set this time around. And of course, the drivers have got to burn off that fuel, so we're not going to see those immediate lap times lighting up here in this broadcast. We're going to be just seeing it come towards the end of qualifying. And one of the key points around this track here is at the chicane, because the Foggy S's, it hasn't got the tyre stacks like it has in full metal racing, but it's so easy to get yourself cut the track too much, get yourself invalidated your lap time, and that really reduces your chances of setting a valid lap time in qualifying.
Yeah, it does indeed. And as William Chadwick goes by, he also knows that he's got to deliver, and does so. Goes fastest of all, doesn't he? Now, that's a good effort, but it's not going to last for long, I think, because now Sebastian Job starts to prove how good he is, and he starts to put in a better lap time by nearly 0.2 of a second. So it's going to be another of those constant battles for pole position here. Clock ticks on down very quickly. 6.5 minutes to go. Doesn't give them many opportunities, does it?
No, absolutely not. And when you're talking about a just under a minute and a half lap, you've not got many opportunities to set that lap time. So really, you need to get a banker in, if nothing else, and then push on to try and set yourself the ultimate pace. There's a lot of those AMs getting involved here as well in the qualifying times in all of this. So good to see Adam Cox up there provisionally in pole position in AM. Adam, I think it's fair to say he's not had the greatest of seasons, currently being down in mid-table in the AM Championship, but a pole position would be a real boon for him.
Now, did I read somewhere that he has either switched teams or joined a team, or something has changed for him, and he's got a different paint pack as well? So Adam Cox hoping that fortunes change a little bit as Will Chadwick comes up towards the timing line. He's still second. He's got to find 0.2 to nudge himself up at the pole position over the timing line. And as he goes by oh dear, slower lap, 1 minute 30.7. So he junked a bit of time there, didn't he? There is Adam Cox. He makes the run up now to the Melbourne hairpin.
It's a brand new livery for the Project 91 team. Oliver Etheridge joining Adam in that team as well. So Adam stayed put, but Oliver has now joined the outfit as well. So we're going to be seeing those two in that Project 91 livery a bit more as he comes across the line. Aidan Walshingham, I was saying at the top of the broadcast, 4 AM wins in a row. He could well make this another 2 here today, but I think we've got a potential of mixed conditions in the second race in particular.
So that's going to be another variable to throw into the melting pot, isn't it? Aidan Walsingham has been so good in his first year in this championship in the AM category. He's looked really impressive. And bear in mind that he's already had, 3 pole positions. He was at Snetterton, Thruxton, Zandvoort, a pole winner. So a really good season for Aidan Walshingham. He's got good pace, and a bit like we saw last year with Luke Pennington, he's a good AM mixing it with the pros.
Yes, he is, and I think we've seen Luke Pennington have the same effect that we saw with Leo Garibaldi. That first year stepping up into the pro level was a real shock to the system. But as we've seen with Garibaldi this year, he's been able to step up and really fight for race wins and be up there with the front runners as well. So it might take you a year or two as 1,000th of a second between the front two. This is sensational.
Pete Merriman is fastest. Sebastian Job has just got himself, as Paul rightly says, within 1,000th of a second, and then 23,000th back. Luke McEwen up to third. Leo Garibaldi was briefly second. He's down to fourth. Aidan Walshingham is fifth and fastest in class. And we're not done yet, are we? With 3 more minutes of the session to go.
By the way, David, given Duff information, Adam isn't joining the Project 91 racing team, so thank you very much to the team for putting that into the Twitch chat here on Porsche's Twitch channel. But yeah, Garibaldi, it's been a big week for him. He's moved from being an academy driver to a full Apex Racing team works driver, so to speak. So really good week for him to be able to step up into the main team.
Absolutely right. And of course, in terms of racecraft, we know that he's good. Leo Gariboli, who is in his second season in the championship, has had a race win. He's had a couple of seconds. He's had, what, 3/3? So he's been a regular at the pointy end of the grid, hasn't he? And with 2.5 minutes on the clock, he bails out of that lap.
Yeah, it does. Now, the drivers have been told in the drivers' briefing that they are able to run really wide on the entry into Goddard's, into the hairpin there, to try and get the run out of the corner. The problem is they've got to be wary of anybody else around them who might be on a hot lap. So they play with fire if they're not careful, as Pete Berryman's just put in an even quicker lap time, but he's onto the pits, so Pete Berryman's done for qualifying.
He is indeed. He was 0.143 of a second quicker than Sebastian Job. You're riding with Sebastian down through the Craner curbs now, heading for the old hairpin. So there's a bit of curb on the inside you can use. Careful not to fire the car too far out wide, but use the curb on the outside, the rumble strip there. That guides you back to the line for Schwantz curve. Climb the hill, head up towards East Midlands Airport, then swing right at McLean's. A little bit of traffic up the road, but Sebastian Job looking good in the sectors here.
McLean's, your car always wants to understeer on the exit of McLean's as well. It doesn't help that the unburnt jet fuel from East Midlands Airport drops onto the track there as well, so it does make it a bit slick up at the top of the hill there. But Job, he needs to hook this lap if he wants to get himself back onto pole position yet again.
So let's see what he can do. This is really going to be his last chance, because he won't be able to get another lap in before the very end. Pete Berryman, who we've seen be a regular for pole position this year, he's at the top. Sebastian Job's really got one more corner to go. Let's see what he can do. He's got to find 0.144 of a second to go to the very top. Easier said than done, isn't it, as he comes out of Goddard's up towards the timing line now to break the beam. Is this going to be pole for Sebastian Job? The answer as he comes across the timing line now is no. He drops to third, and then yes, he is up to pole, because Luke McEwen just got ahead of him. But then Sebastian Job's lap does come up through the system, and it's a 1:28.165, so he's quicker by 78 thousandths of a second. Job, Berryman, McEwen, Chadwick, Gariboli, Davidson, the top six.
And I don't know if you saw, the person who was giving him a slipstream was actually Luke McEwen in all of that. So Luke couldn't abandon his lap to stop giving Sebastian the slipstream, because he was on a quicker lap himself.
Right, and we've just had Luke Pennington off through the gravel as well, so that squandered his lap. Up to the timing point soon will come Adam Cox, who is 19th overall. Started okay, but and he bails from the lap, so will, as the clock hits 0, lose that opportunity for him because he didn't get through in time. So what that means as far as the grid is concerned is that Sebastian Job is going to be on pole position, and Pete Berryman lines up second ahead of Luke McEwen and Will Chadwick fourth. Fifth on the grid, Leo Gariboli. Sixth is where Alex Davidson will start. Seventh for Aidan Walsingham, another AM pole ahead of Matt Caruana. Then you've got Isaac Price. Ninth, Gareth Higgins rounding out the top 10 ahead of Luke Pennington. And then Jacob Tofts in 12th on the grid. 13th for Crofton Woodhatch. 14th is where you find Christian Chiruta ahead of Scott Mokes and Conan Weird. It's Oliver Ettridge 17th and Tim Darracott 18th in the order. 19th in the end for Adam Cox ahead of David Williams. Then Guy Edwards, who after a couple of good wins has faded a little bit over recent rounds. He'll be one to watch to see what progress can be made. Daniel Cofield next ahead of Sam Fitzpatrick, and then Dylan Platt from the pro category, quite a long way back, 24th on the grid. One or two surprises within that qualifying order. Guy Edwards a bit further back than really would have anticipated seeing him, I think, Paul.
Yeah, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed with that, of course, coming into this round just 10 points off of Aidan Walsingham in the championship. So he would have hoped to have been a little bit closer, I think it's fair to say. And Eric Grove, set right at the back of the grid, did not set a lap time at all, and I have a feeling he may not be taking the start of the race either.
Okay, so the cars grid up. 25 minutes, remember, for each Carrera Cup Esports race in this Porsche Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain Championship, with only one more event after this to determine champions. Easter Sunday will all come to a close at a virtual Brands Hatch. Sebastian Job then in the Red Bull colours on pole position. the gridding will be complete. The drivers in a moment will concentrate then on that lighting gantry, ready to go racing at Donington. 25 minutes on the clock. Engine notes rise.
Green, green, green.
And it is going to be blast off as Sebastian Job launches off the line. Good getaway. And cutting in behind it then is Pete Berryman to try and partly look up the inside, partly cut off everybody else on the way down towards Redgate, but an absolute peach of a start by Job. He leads Berryman in third slot. It's going to be Luke McEwen, Will Chadwick fourth, so it's the regular front runners then with Leo Garibaldi fifth. Up at the pointy end, round Hollywood they go, downhill for the first time. Sebastian Job doing what he needed to do off the start.
Yeah, absolutely perfect launch off the start. Now, Pete Berryman, I think if you're the Apex Racing team, you're wanting Pete to keep with Sebastian and maybe try and force an error. Good luck doing that. I mean, we've seen one error, two errors this season, haven't we, from Sebastian? So it is possible, but it's going to take a lot of work. But everybody behaving themselves so far. A couple of drivers have picked up a slow-down penalty from the iRacing system for cutting the course slightly, so maybe clipping the inside of the old hairpin a little bit too much. It's easily done, especially on lap one when you're following everyone so closely.
Absolutely right. They flick through the S's then for the first time, and Sebastian Job just over the course of the lap edges away by length, make that 2 lengths by the end of it. Bit of a challenge lower down within the classes as they're to the inside line. Look, coming into the braking zone dives. Matt Caruana goes through on the inside line, trying to gain ground. The inside of the Melbourne hairpin, if you don't get the job done, puts you on the outside line here, and there is Matt Caruana on the outside line in danger of losing a place. End of lap one. Job leads. Sorry.
I was going to say the good thing for him, though, is it gets the inside for Redgate, so it all pans out for him in the end. But Alex Davidson, you don't need to ask him twice to fight back, and he ducks to the inside. Oh, a little bit of rubbing there. Obviously wanting the paint swab for going down to Halfords later on.
So Caruana elbows out, tries to defend. Sebastian Job getting away, 0.6 of a second to the good. Lap 2 in this 25-minute race. It's the full Grand Prix circuit, of course, 2.5 miles of it. So you've got the fast-flowing section here, the original Donington circuit, or the, if you like, post-war original circuit from 1977, and then you've got the loop added on in 1985, where it's very much stop-start. They needed to make the circuit a given length for the FIA, and the only way to do it was to cram a couple of hairpins and short straights in, and that's why the loop came about for Formula 3000 when it first came here in the mid-80s. The race leader, Sebastian Job, then down towards the S's, clear of Pete Berryman. Luke McEwen in third place, and guess who the leading AM is? No surprise, Aidan Walsingham, and he's way, way clear of the class opposition, isn't he?
Yeah, look at it. Scott Merckx is the next one in 14th in AM. So, Aidan, if I was him, I would want to be trying to hold on to that 8th place, because that, of course, is the inverted grid position. Get him on pole. Oh, a little bit of incident behind him, actually. I think that was Tufts and Gareth Higgins, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, getting themselves together. Though, again, people finding out that their race can be affected by everybody else. Gareth Higgins from the pro class comes up over the timing line. Gareth, somebody else that has ducked in and out over the last couple of years, retired last time out at Knock Hill, but going nicely here as the race leader, Sebastian Job, then goes through. He is on to lap number 3 and edging clear of the opposition as the leaders drop downhill. You can see already gaps are opening up. There's a sort of cork in the bottle effect going on here, isn't there? As you can see, 1 or 2 cars not able to match the pace, but defending resolutely.
Yeah, Jacob Tofts is that man doing that defensive work in 9th, doing a good job to keep Isaac Price, one of those experienced hands in the world of sim racing, behind him. And look at it, you've got Price, Higgins, Woodhatch, Pennington, Merckx all together here, and nobody's seemingly able to do anything about it.
Now, Pete Berryman has just come back slightly at Sebastian Job. He's brought the gap down by about 1/10 of a second. Doesn't sound much, but in the context of Sebastian Job, every little helps, doesn't it? So Pete Berryman not giving up and certainly charging on as best he can. Down they come to the Melbourne hairpin. And like we saw last time out, Luke McEwen is behind. Now, if Pete Berryman can't do anything about Job, but he's close out of the hairpin here, might he think about letting McEwen have a chance to go after Job instead? This is often what we've seen, isn't it? Berryman is to head early on, has an attack, and drama at the Melbourne hairpin. Is that Luke Pennington? It is.
It is. Say in unison. Yeah, Pennington obviously got assistance there. I think I did see tyre smoke in the background shot, but we've seen it over the last 2 years specifically, Sebastian Job is so good on those cold tyres in the first lap or two, isn't he? Just getting the launch off the start and getting a little bit of a gap at the front. But then the others seem to bring him in. So it's almost as if he's able to work those tyres initially hard to get that grip, but then the others, bringing their tyres in a bit more gently, can then attack for the rest of the race.
Replay what happened to Luke Pennington. He got up the inside of Croft and Woodhatch and turned them both around. So it wasn't an assist for him, it was from him. And Luke Pennington took longer to recover than Croft and Woodhatch, who fell down to the back of the field, but he can feel a bit aggrieved about that. Luke Pennington, not the first driver to fall foul of late braking at the Melbourne hairpin and get it wrong, but with serious consequences. Leaders onto the loop again, Job building the gap again.
Yeah, it's just back and forth, isn't it, just how these laps are going. But these races, they're relatively long. 25 minutes for these drivers. When you compare it to the Super Cup that was last night at Fuji, and a very damp Fuji for Luke McEwen, for Sebastian Job, for Will Chadwick. Different conditions for them here on a very different style track. They've got to be the quick adapters in all of this. And it's really interesting to see how the three of them are in the top four.
All about seat time, I guess, isn't it? As long as you are constantly driving a Esports 911 GT3 Cup of some description, doesn't matter what championship, you're always on top of the nuances of the car. Oliver Ettridge then, 57, a little bit further back in a big battle pack as he tries to wriggle his way round Redgate. He's got Guy Edwards tucked up with him as well. These two squabbling a bit lower down the order. Great shot of that as they charge over the top of the camera, down to the old hairpin now.
And it's so important to get the run through Hollywood and the Craner curves to set yourself up for the old hairpin, because if you can get that hooked up nicely through the old hairpin, it gives you a real big slingshot up the hill through Schwantz Curve into McLean. So definitely Guy Edwards is meaning business. He's wanting to move forward. I think he'll be very frustrated with his qualifying. He needs to get moving forward to try and get those positions in hand.
Now, coming down towards the Fogarty S's, it's not really an easy overtaking opportunity anymore with the low curbs for bike racing. It's a flick left and right. In the old days, it was a proper hard brake left and right, and you could have a go there, but these days it's really tough to commit to that. Down to the Melbourne hairpin, that's an easier place to overtake if you're confident under braking. So the AMs all in a queue. Sorry, Paul, go on.
No, I was going to say, also at that chicane, though, on the old curbs, he used to be able to launch the car as well up onto two wheels. It was spectacular, but not the fastest way through either.
No, true. Gabriele Tarquini's two-wheeling Alpha was one celebrated car. John Morris barrel rolling his Volkswagen Golf was another in touring car racing, and others fell foul of it too. So, yes, it perhaps wasn't the safest of chicanes, even if it was a different style of chicane. Tim Darracott you're riding with now, and he is 9th in AM, so he's got some work to do here. Tim Darracott a little bit further back in the queue, of course, accelerating his way now onto the top of the Craner curves, and 21st overall for Tim Darracott.
Being a bit excessive on track limits on the exit, but he carried the speed because of it. So do you take that little hit of the track limits, police, and try and get advantage one time, but then have to behave yourself many other laps of this race?
Well, for now, he's got away with it, hasn't he? Tim Darracott's been in and out of the championship this year, so it's good to have him back. But you could argue that not being able to commit to every round doesn't really help your case, because you're not always learning, you're not having the same mileage as other people. Here, another little fight comes down towards us, including in the midst of all of that, 72, Daniel Cofield. 71, also Sam Fitzpatrick in the battle pack. 16 minutes are still on the clock, and Sebastian Job, meanwhile, up front, still only half a second ahead of Pete Berryman. He's not exactly escaped up the road, has he?
I think he's having to try and manage his pace at the front to not push the tyres too hard to keep them in towards the end of the race. Fortunately, the track, it's rather cool. 28 degrees Celsius is the track temperature itself, so it's not too hard on these tyres here today. There won't be so much thermal limited with it. It'll be more the wear towards the end of the race. And this track, there's a lot of sweeping corners, especially right-handers around this track, so you're really going to be working that left side of the car.
So Sebastian Job, race leader, championship leader, 0.5 of a second up the road, and different timing points. It's either a few thousandths up or a few thousandths down, but it's hovering around that margin. The frustration again is coming for Luke McEwen, isn't it? Because he's got pace, but he can't clear Berryman. He couldn't do it in qualifying, and he's not yet been able to do it in the race. They're running in tandem. They're sort of working together rather than scrapping amongst themselves. But you just wonder again, as we had at earlier rounds, Knock Hill most recently, for example, what could McEwen do for the lead were he to be released by Berryman?
What will happen is if he does make a move, Berryman will make it the absolutely widest gap that Luke McEwen has ever gone through in his racing career, because Pete's not going to defend that. But it's up to Luke to actually make that move in the first place, because you hear the old adage of team radios of teams saying, come on, okay, we need you to move over, and the driver saying, well, he needs to get to me first.
That's true enough, yes. So it's all very well saying Luke is quicker than you, but if he's not there, he's not quicker. McEwen is a little bit nearer though, isn't he? He's closed up once more under braking for the old hairpin, and now powers his way up underneath the bridge, through Schwantz Curve, and then on towards McLean's. Will Chadwick fourth, and he's sort of there or thereabouts, but equally he's not close enough to make a move against McEwen, is he?
He's very much in his sort of natural position at the moment in this order. He's quick, and he's up there with the pace of those front runners. It's just that he's not got that extra tenth of a second, I don't feel. The slipstream will be helping down the back straight here down into the foggy S's, but other than that, he's not really got the effect of the slipstream around here at Donington.
No, the danger is that the dirty air doesn't really help him either, because of course these cars do have quite a bit of aero from that Swan's Neck style rear wing up towards the left-hander of Goddard's. They come, and Sebastian Job, again, knowing how to piece together a championship, because as we've said over the course of the season, race one for the pros has the greater allocation of points. It's a natural race from a natural qualifying based grid, so this is the one you want to win. Yes, every driver likes a victory, but for points, this is the better of the two to take a victory in, isn't it?
Yes, and especially when we saw Luke getting 6 points closer after the last round at Knock Hill. It could have been so much better for Luke as well if he hadn't had that big moment over the chicane. But yeah, I think Luke will kick himself for that mistake at the chicane last time out. But time is running out for Luke, and Sebastian, if he's able to hold on to a win here as well as pole position, that's a big 14 points in his pocket right there.
Yeah, indeed so. That little error from Luke McEwen at Knock Hill, serious consequences. And right now, again, he's stuck behind Pete Berryman. The lead gap up to 0.6 of a second. So we're on lap 9 now. 12 more minutes of the race to go. So we're about halfway. And second and third drop down towards the S's together. Luke McEwen on the back of his teammate, Pete Berryman. This is Pete at work. Look back. You can see how close Luke McEwen is. And over his shoulder is Will Chadwick, who is not really falling off the back of them.
The problem for Pete is that he can't make it too easy and slow down too much, because Will Chadwick will leap on that opportunity and try and make it into a podium place. So you've got to be canny with how you do that swap. Of course, I know in the Super Cup it is strictly an individuals championship, and your team orders are not allowed in that series. I'm going to have a quick look through the rulebook to see if it's the same here as well.
Well, Pete Berryman, for the moment, has got his hands full, certainly, not only in terms of defending from his teammate Luke McEwen, but also going after Sebastian Job, who's now, I think, sort of gone through that tipping point. 9/10 was the margin, 8/10 at the old hairpin. Guy Edwards on the outside line there, battles into Redgate, still trying to find a way through the traffic. And now onto the top of the Craner curves once more. Guy Edwards on the back of Oliver Ettridge. Good little fight this. The trouble is they've both been caught by Daniel Cofield and Adam Cox, who's right there as well. 11 minutes and counting as this battle for 17th overall runs through Schwantz Curve, makes the climb up towards McLean's.
Yeah, just not able to quite make a move there into McLean's. I always remember that famous clip of oil being dropped there and cars going flying off there, including a disgruntled John Cleland. It's such a if you're a British motorsport fan, it is a track that just evokes motorsport memories, as well as in the Carrera Cup GB as well. So it is one of those fantastic venues, and I implore anybody who's never been here, go and watch racing there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I remember describing that touring car oil slick moment. It was the first double-header BTCC event. They thought, we'll try these two races back to back, and yeah, somebody dropped a load of oil and carnage ensued, as you say. Right now, though, carnage being averted in this battle pack, close as it is. Guy Edwards in this invidious position. You can see 55 on the side of the car, trying to attack and defend at the same time. So as they come to the line, Guy Edwards looking for a way past Oliver Ettridge, keeping Daniel Cofield at bay, and it's because he's having to think about what's behind, but he can't fully commit to attacking for that place ahead.
It's a funny position to be in when you're in a pack like this. You're wanting to move forward in all of this, but at the same time, you're conscious of that drive behind. Look at the run that Adam gets through the crane of curves there, but the back end was just not behaving there on the exit of the old hairpin. It loses those few tenths, and that's what costs you. Then you've got Croft and Woodhatch big in the mirrors behind, and yeah, it's that risk-reward thing. Where do you set that line?
Adam Cox dropped off the back a little, didn't he, as he makes the climb from McLean's to Coppice. But it's good that the AMs are having this tussle, because, of course, the better you do in AM, the greater your chances are of success in the future, maybe stepping up into pro. I'm still slightly mystified as to Guy Edwards' season, really, because, as we said early on, you know, he took 3 class wins, but in recent rounds, nobody in AM has been able to hold a candle, really, to Aidan Walsingham, have they?
I mean, we did talk to Aidan last week, didn't we, after Knock Hill, and he said he's finally got a handle of the car. So is it just a case of it took him a little while to get to the pace of the series and the car, and once he's got to that, he's just on another level? It could well be. Again, it goes back to your point earlier, David. Seat time, it is such a big thing, especially with a car with no ABS or traction control.
True. And the other quirky one in AM is Christian Charuta, who was a winner in the first 2 events, a win at Silverstone, a win at Snetterton in the second race at both events, but then not a winner since. You know, his season has really been tough from that point on. So there is Christian Charuta in number 2, making his way now down through the old hairpin. He's got Dylan Platt tucked up behind him, so that's an AM ahead of a pro. Christian Charuta, very quick Caterham racer in real world racing a few years ago, and now turning his attention to esports racing and going very, very well, but not having been able to maintain that winning form over the season.
Don't worry, David, I won't mention how many years I've been commentating on British GT. These drivers. Zaruta, he was a driver that I had big hopes for, because I've seen him racing in a few series that I've commentated on here in iRacing, and I thought he was going to be a bit more challenging for that AM Championship. He's still in 3rd place. He's not too far off of Aidan Walsingham's championship lead, but it's getting to that point of the season where you're thinking, I need big points now if I need to catch up.
And he's just lost a place overall to Dylan Platt. Now, that's not going to affect him in AM, because that was a pro passing him, but he's lost track position. While all that's been going on, Crofton... Go on.
Yeah, that was
Adam Cox getting roughed up, was it?
Yeah, it was Cox getting roughed up, absolutely. And, well, you don't need to ask Croft and Woodhatch twice to go through on the inside.
Well, no, Croft and Woodhatch was in the sentence I was having a stab at, because he's got himself up into 19th after being turned around early on by Luke Pennington. But one of the reasons he's got himself up the order is with his elbows well and truly sharpened and sticking out.
I've been the victim of elbows being sharpened around this track virtually, and it is a proper old school track though, is this, because there's no asphalt runoff here. You're on grass or gravel. That's what's happening. Yeah. You can see the dirt there on the exit of McLean's, where drivers have been running wide. One little mistake and you're going backwards quick in terms of the running order. Here's a replay of what happened then at Goddard's.
So Croft and Woodhatch dives for the inside, a little bit of hip shoulder, a bit of nudging as well, and The net result is that Woodhatch gains ground as they come over the line. So whether that gets looked at, of course, we know from the past that the stewards are always quite busy. Poor old Charles Rainford, absent this weekend, but he copped a penalty post-race after Knock Hill, didn't he? So we know that what happens on track, if there's any contact at all, is reviewed, and if penalties are appropriate, they will be applied. They're going round Redgate. Matt Caruana 6th, Alex Davidson 7th. And another really close battle. That very colourful car of Matt Caruana always draws attention to itself, but right now it is having to be a very wide one to keep Davidson behind.
I will say, in the world of motorsport, red, black and white seems to be the chosen colours of choice. So to have Caruana there with a bright pink and green car, it really helps us out in the commentary box, that is for sure. And we know where he is on track. But Alex Davidson, he's another one who I thought would step up this season. He showed promise last season, of course, got himself some podium finishes, but he's not been able to match that last season this season.
No, he had a second at Thruxton, didn't he? But he missed Snetterton, event 2. He missed Alton Park, event 4. So again, he's dipped in and out. And now gets the run, does he, on Matt Caruana coming off the S's? Yes, goes to the outside line, down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Outside line for Davidson, inside line for Matt Caruana. And Matt should get the drive off the corner and just hang on to the place.
Yeah, firmly closed the door there, did Matt, and you've got to wake up very early to try and beat Matt around the outside there at the Melbourne hairpin. It is pretty much an easy corner to defend into. It's just then carrying the momentum out of the corner. That's what you're having to try and do to get the run into Goddard to get it done. But again, look at that, inside line held. Can Davidson get the cut under? No. He tried to, going into Hollywood, but certainly not able to get his nose alongside.
Alex Davidson knows all the tricks. Matt Caruana does likewise. So it's an evenly matched fight, this, between the two of them. Just under 4 minutes to go out of the old hairpin. Remember, we're looking at 6th and 7th, absolutely nose to tail. Now Davidson lines up for a go on the inside at Schwantz Curve, but that puts him on the wrong line for the next corner. So he tries to go all the way around the outside of McLean. That doesn't pay off either. He'll then be on the outside line for Coppice. He needs to either be hugely brave around the outside, which is what he commits to, or duck up the inside going into the corner. He can't do that, and Caruana has got the pace. But now Davidson, with a little bit of leaning going on, has got the inside line for the S's, and this time around should get the place.
But Caruana, if he does it right, can get the run out of the chicane there. Oh, does the car behave? It does, but now Davidson is the one in the box seat and is just able to hold that inside line. Nicely done. That was a really good overtake, and that all started at the old hairpin, didn't it?
Absolutely right, yeah, and fair play to Alex Davidson for doing that, because he had to start that move about half a lap ago. You can see how the thinking driver pieces it together. It wasn't a spur of the moment lunge. It was cleverly thought out to know where he wanted to be for that part of the circuit, and it's worked, and it's given him now 6th place. Jacob Toths, by the way, is 8th behind them, and that's pole for race 2 if things stay as they are. Behind him in 9th is your leading Aidan Walsingham yet again.
Toft, I mean, he's had a very tough season as Jacob. It would be great to see him get a result in the second race, a reverse grid. I can tell you, by the way, I've got early view of the radar. There is rain on its way. It won't be in time for this race, but next race, we will see some rain falling.
Oh, good. Proper April Donington then. If I tell you the sun's shining behind me in the real world at Donington, because I'm stood in the paddock, you might not believe me. Matt Caruana, you're on board with, comes out of Coppice, trying to fight back against Alex Davidson. And this is for 6th place. So yeah, Jacob Toffs heading for pole. Aidan Walsingham looking as though it's win number 7 on the cards in AM, and that's quite something, isn't it?
And 5 on the bounce as well. It's just absolutely incredible run for Walsingham, and I would think that he would like to have held on to that 8th place to get that inverted grid position. You never say never. I mean, there's just under a minute and a half left. Oh my goodness, there's all sorts happening through the chicane.
Yeah, Christian Charus is in the thick of it, as ever, and he survives, more or less, but they try to go 3 abreast down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Charus on the inside, Guy Edwards on the outside. Christian Charus comes off the corner ahead. He was 15th-ish when he went into it, and he might still be there or thereabouts, coming the other side up towards Goddard's. The leaders are on the last lap. Sebastian Job is only 9/10 of a second ahead, but this battle's going to go all the way down to the wire.
And this is very much the drunken, disorderly drivers who have had run-ins with the police. They're giving it absolutely everything because they want the best result possible. And remember, for those outside of the top 8, it's your result from this race that sets your grid position. So these are all going to be fighting again in the next race as well.
Very true. That battle just carries on, doesn't it, really? But for Sebastian Job, the checkered flag awaits then. He is on lap number 17 and looking good. The other nice thing about this, despite the dramas that we had early on, nobody has bailed. Everyone has continued to the end. Sebastian Job now then makes that run up towards the Melbourne hairpin. And the final lap, a checkered flag, and for Sebastian, win number 5. It's been a bit of a lean run, really, because he didn't win at Knock Hill and he only had 1 win at Zandvoort. So it's been at least 1 event between wins. He's not that far up the road from Berryman, who has fended off McEwen, but Sebastian Job is going to win once more in Carrera Cup Esports GB. Checkered flag awaits. Win number 5 of the season for Sebastian Job. He takes the checkered flag to win race 1 at Donington. Pete Berryman is going to be 2nd. Luke McEwen set for 3rd, with Will Chadwick 4th, and Aidan Walsinger 9th is going to win for the 7th time in AM, and that is a mighty achievement, isn't it? Incredible
drive from Aidan, and he's just helping secure himself at the head of the standings. Dam and Zaruta still fighting away all the way to the end. Dylan Platt right behind with Guy Edwards. Great stuff between those drivers, and we haven't seen the end of that is for sure. Sam Fitzpatrick as well. There's slow cars coming across the line. It's been quite the opening race for us, but Sebastian Job likes to flag. You can't fault him at all, can you?
No, and that's why he is the benchmark driver, isn't it? Because he didn't put a wheel wrong in that, and it's also why he is a champion, because that was an excellent job. And Pete Berryman, even though he could never quite get onto terms in order to challenge for the win, did do the fastest lap, that 1 minute 28.524. So Sebastian Job wins race 1 by 9/10 of a second from Pete Berryman. 2nd for Berryman from teammate Luke McEwen. 3rd was McEwen. 4th was Will Chadwick. Leo Garibaldi 5th. Alex Davidson 6th. Matt Caruana 7th ahead of Jacob Toff. So you reverse those 8 for the grid for race 2. 9th, yet another class win, making it now 7th for Aidan Walsingham. He was 9th overall. Isaac Price rounding out that top 10. 11th for Gareth Higgins ahead of David Williams, then Scott Mokes from Coden and Weir, Christian Charuta next up from Dylan Platt, Guy Edwards 17th ahead of Oliver Ettridge, with Crofton Woodhatch and Tim Darracott rounding out the top 20. Woodhatch, remember, recovering after being turned around by Luke Pennington, who was 21st. Then it was Sam Fitzpatrick ahead of Daniel Cofield and Adam Cox. Eric Grove, as we rather feared, being a non-starter, didn't get into qualifying nor the race. So we've kind of used up all of our Sebastian Job superlatives over a season and 3 quarters, haven't we? But he's done it again, and he does it with minimum fuss. He doesn't have to go storming off into the distance. The winning margins are never huge, but he always does enough.
And it's all about managing that race win as well, isn't it? He's able to cope with the initial pressure from behind, deals with that, and then is able to just eke out that lead to give himself a bit of a comfort gap at the front, but doesn't push too hard. It's almost like the Alain Prost approach to racing, isn't it? Just win at the slowest rate possible.
And as I've said before, you know, it doesn't matter if you win by 1,000th of a second or a minute, as long as you win. And so Sebastian Job doesn't risk anything, doesn't ever look leery. You never get the feeling that, oh, you know, he's on the edge. It's all beautifully controlled. I would still be fascinated to see how he would fare in real-world Carrera Cup GB. I think he'd be quite a force to be reckoned with. So the drivers now have 2 or 3 minutes just of warm-up, get themselves set, ready for the second race. When are we predicting this rain to arrive? Midway through the race?
Yeah, midway through the race, and I'm looking at the radar, and I don't know if our producer Hugo Luis will be able to bring us that later on, but it looks like we've got a heavy burst of rain as well, so it might be short and sharp, but it will be wet enough, I feel, for having to force people onto wet tyres. Remember that great race finish at Snetterton earlier this season, David, when you had Luke McEwen and Sebastian Job slipping and sliding on slick tyres? We could be in for more of that, couldn't we?
I feel that short and sharp and heavy burst might be our alter egos, but I know what you mean about the weather. So, yeah, I mean, that's the other compromise for the drivers, isn't it? Do we go into this for a dry setup and slick tyres and we have to brave it out? Do we hope that the rain comes sooner? Well, it's going to start on a dry track, so there's no real argument that you're going to have to go for dry weather tyres. But then if it does get wet late race, then it's going to be a real challenge for them. 25 minutes once more for this second race, the warm-up done. So they will grid up based on that reversal of the top 8 from race 1. So it means that Jacob Tofts this time starts on pole, and Matt Caruana will be with him at the front, ahead of Alex Davidson and then Leo Gariboli. 5th for Will Chadwick. Luke McEwen is going to start 6th. 7th, Pete Berryman, runner-up in the opening race, and Sebastian Jobe this time goes from 8th, ahead of Aidan Walsingham, the AM winner, and then it is Isaac Price alongside. 11th, Gareth Higgins. David Williams made a bit of progress in that opener. He will start 12th this time. Scott Mokes 13th on the grid, ahead of Conan Wean in number 13. Then it's Christian Scheruter, Dylan Platt from Pro, ahead of Guy Edwards and Oliver Ettridge starting 18th. 19th will be Crofton Woodhatch, one to watch, I think, with some work to do, but good pace. Then it's Tim Darracott ahead of Luke Pennington and Sam Fitzpatrick. Daniel Cofield is going to start 23rd, and Adam Cox will be 24th on the grid. So that is how they line up. Eric Grove, I think we can sort of rather discount from this, sadly, as everybody now starts to grid up. And as they do so, then our second race will be shortly underway, but it is getting decidedly gloomy, isn't it, over the circuit now? Headlights on for some of them, and this will be a very different feel to the race, I suspect.
And I'm keeping my eye. I'm now the meteorologist of the broadcast. I'm looking. I do believe that the Melbourne hairpin will be the first place to get the rain, which is quite possibly one of the worst places, I would say, around here, wouldn't it? A fast run into a hard braking zone.
That was Paul Smith and his warm front, yes. So the weather forecast coming about the conditions over the Melbourne hairpin. You're quite right, because it's a fast section of the circuit, and not only is it heavy braking, it's downhill as well. So the rain will start to sort of congregate at the bottom. 25 minutes then are ahead of us. It's going to be a damp Donington come the end, we reckon, for our second race in the Esports Carrera Cup GB. Green lights on. We go racing, and a good getaway this time from pole by number 27 of Jacob Tofts, but it's not good enough to fend off Matt Caruana, who gets his nose in front as they dive into Redgate. Jacob Tofts on the inside line just comes out ahead. Alex Davidson, though, gets up the inside of both of them from the second row, and Alex Davidson, as they come over the brow at Hollywood, takes the race lead. Tofts second, Caruana third, and that was a really good opportunistic move by Davidson.
Oh, he took the advantage, absolutely. Caruana, remember, race winner last time out at Knock Hill. He's forced his way through as well. Now, I don't know if my timing screen is telling me Porkies or not, but, well, it's not telling me Porkies about Oliver Ettridge, but it's saying on my end that Will Chadwick, Isaac Price, Aidan Walsingham and Luke Pennington are all on wet tyres. So if they start dropping down the order here very quickly, that might confirm things.
Okay, we'll keep an eye to that as the drivers come then towards the end of the lap. Sebastian Jobe certainly going up the order, so it is a gamble, and we'll double check those tyres in a moment, because as the cars come onto the Grand Prix loop now, already progress has started to be unravelled for Crofton Woodhatch, because he's off the road. You can see he's gone tumbling down the order. Headlights ablaze. Looks very long distance racing, sort of Spa 24 Hours style Porsche racing. This, doesn't it, with the lights on in the gloom coming out of the Melbourne hairpin. So Alex Davidson will lead at the end of lap 1. That's the easy bit out of all of this. Caruana second, Gariboli third. Christian Scheruter has gained a place on the loop, and at the end of the opening lap, over the timing line they will come. Alex Davidson, who's not had a win in Carrera Cup GB before in the Esports Championship, leads. Matt Caruana, Leo Gariboli third, McEwen is fourth, Jobe fifth, Tofts sixth, Berryman seventh, Higgins is eighth, Will Chadwick down to ninth, Isaac Price 10th, and it's Scott Mokes leading in amp from Scheruter, and then Aidan Walsingham.
I think Walsingham is definitely on wet tyres, because the wet tyre, it's a slightly larger radius tyre. It means that you've actually got a slower top speed down the straight. So those other cars on the slick tyres, they're getting a higher top speed, and you've seen they're able to get past. It almost looks like he's in a different class of car.
Yeah.
But it's whether he's cooking the tyres. And for me, you've got to be on the right tyres for the conditions that you're in now.
And who else did we put onto wets? Chadwick, Pennington and Ettridge?
And Price.
Right, okay. So Ettridge is last, Pennington is penultimate, and Isaac Price is 11th. He's just about surviving for the moment. Walton, I'm not convinced he is on wets because all the others have tumbled to the back. Isaac Price is still in 11th place. Walsingham is hemorrhaging time, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a sitting duck on the straights, isn't he? And I think it's showing. That rain, it's still a bit away, is that rain right now. So I do think those who have tried to pull a fast one and not have to pit in this race are going to end up wishing that they'd started on slick tyres, I feel.
Yeah, because the road is still dry, isn't it? So as you say, you're cooking the tyres, you've got a slower tyre anyway. The danger is that you've fallen off the lead lap. And so if others do pit, you're still in no position really to be able to combat that. The race order is Alex Davidson leading Matt Caruana and then Leo Gariboli. In fourth is Luke McEwen, ahead of Sebastian Jobe. That's where he has to be to try to outscore him for the championship, but he's not really outscoring him by enough, is he, as the cars now go through McLean's once more. Davidson, the leader, not getting away by much, if anything.
No, he's not. And Caruana, we know that he's got pace, has Matt. He's also somebody who will fight for a position. And we saw these two fighting it out in that first race of the day. So long may this continue for us. And Will Chadwick, he's dropping down the order here. He is hemorrhaging. He's down 6 places now.
Yeah, he's lost another one to David Williams and now another one to Dylan Platt. So, yeah, now, of course, those drivers that have started on wets are in a real quandary because they don't want to have to pit to go onto slicks and then pit again to go back onto wets. But equally, for as long as the track remains dry, there's just nothing they can do. They are not in the same race. Guy Edwards gets through on the inside line as well. Now he's 13th, Chadwick 14th.
I think if you were... Really, you've got to look at that radar before the race. Look at the wind speed. It's not that fast as that wind speed, just 10 kilometres an hour. So it's not actually that strong a breeze. You have to go for the tyres that the conditions are at that time. And I think we're getting that proof. Now, what's betting? The rain happens. They're suddenly the fastest drivers on track. And I get made look like a fool.
I just think the wets are going to have deteriorated too much by that stage on a dry circuit. This is Isaac Price. We weren't convinced, or I wasn't convinced about him being on wets, but I am now because he's just totally unable to do anything about those on a nice, warm, slick tyre on a dry circuit. And so the car's not going to feel right, it's going to feel slow anyway. And when the rain comes, the tread on those wets will have been worn away to a point that they're almost going to be redundant, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And a big drama there, look, because we've got, oh dear, big contact. Crofton Woodhatch went around, got clobbered as he did so. Not his day, is it?
I think Crofton needs to just park the car, go for a long walk somewhere and forget about this event today. It's not been his day at all. And look at how close these guys are at the front. Sebastian Jobe, Pete Berryman's there, Luke McEwen, Gariboli as well. I'm not writing out Leo Gariboli from a race win here potentially, as it was Woodhatch just losing it and then bang, Sam Fitzpatrick nowhere to go.
Yeah, head on. That won't do the cars any good, will it? Because the radiator is at the front in a 911.
Places.
Oh, he has, you're right. Yeah, I was just going to say that's going to put coolant on the road if they're not careful. So, yeah, Gariboli down in 6th. So he's had a moment somewhere. Another replay of the Woodhatch-Fitzpatrick incident. Fitzpatrick, the innocent party in all of this. So, yeah, now we need to try and find out what's happened to Leo Gariboli. You're quite right. He's dropped 3 places. Sebastian Jobe's in a battle here with Berryman and McEwen. And that's for 3rd, 4th, 5th now. Jobe looking the quicker of the 3.
Yeah, he certainly is. But look at how the 2 leaders have been able to gap these drivers because of what's happened. So obviously something's happened to Leo that's caused everybody to get caught up and bunched up. Sebastian's got some big damage to the front of his car as well. So fortunately, we don't have to worry too much about the coolant going out onto the track in iRacing, although it will affect those temperatures though. Here's what happened.
Right, so Berryman got into the back. Was it Berryman or McEwen got into the back of Gariboli? Then Jobe got into the back of the Apex car, and that was another hit against Gariboli. So it was all a bit of a concertina effect, but Leo Gariboli was the innocent victim in that, wasn't he? It was other people getting too close to him. It was McEwen.
Teammate. It's an Apex teammate as well.
Yeah, you're right.
When you turn to Leo Garibaldi. Sebastian Jobs just lost the place to Pete Berryman as well. So, yeah, down to 5th now for Sebastian.
But you're right about the top two gapping the others. Davidson and Caruana getting away. Okay, they've been helped a bit by that silliness at Goddard. 17 minutes on the clock. There is Sebastian Job. So it's McEwen 3rd, but I suspect there might be a bit of a case to answer post-race. 4th is Berryman. 5th is Job. 6th is the recovering Gary Bowley, and he's going to be all fired up. Gareth Higgins is 7th. Jacob Toft from pole is 8th. And 9th is Scott Mokes, and he is the leading AM right now. And remember that Scott Mokes has not been an AM winner this season.
Oh, what a day it would be for Scott if he's able to get an AM win out of this one. I mean, Christian Zaruta will push him all the way, that is for sure, and we'll see those two battling, no doubt, in this race. Just to give you a little bit of an update, Isaac Price is now the leader of the wet group. He's down in 19th, 22.5 seconds off of the race leader.
19th place overall, yeah, it's a lot of time to lose, and not only has he lost that, but the rain hasn't come, has it? So the road is not yet coming to him. Isaac Price is lapping in the 1 minute 32s, the leaders in the 1 minute 28, so he's losing 4 seconds a lap, and that potentially will get worse as the wet tyres overheat.
Yeah, it just exacerbates, and it just compounds, and it gets worse and worse, and you'll be thinking, oh my goodness, why did we do this? Why?
Yeah,
that's what happens when you take that risk, isn't it, David? We've seen it time and again.
Absolutely. Trying to outguess what the weather does is always a big gamble. Isaac Price, you can see, struggling on as best he can, trying to salvage something. He's battling with Will Chadwick, who's another one thinking exactly that. Why did I go this way on the wet tyres? Why did I make that call?
The problem is, if they end up getting to about 40 seconds back, even if those drivers at the front pit, they'll still be behind and on a seriously worn set of wet tyres.
Yeah, they can't win from this, can they? Because they're hemorrhaging too much time early on. As you say, the tyre's going to be well worn, and we've only got 15 minutes of the race to go. Now, the rain has not yet come, so what that means is that from Davidson, Caruana, for example, up front, they could possibly just be able to tiptoe round to the end. The track might not become all that wet, given that we've had, the first 10 minutes of the 25, and still it's a dry circuit.
I could tell you that the in-sim forecaster is saying that at 3:15 in-sim time, we will have 100% precipitation. And that's about 13 minutes away. So we could be seeing any time. But just before it could be in the last couple of laps, like we saw at Snetterton earlier this year. By
which stage those cars on the wet tyres will have dropped off the lead lap, if not dropped out of the race, because they're just not competitive in any sense. What's impressive here is the pace of Davidson and Caruana, because they are so far up the road, nearly 4 seconds clear now of Luke McEwen in 3rd place. Pete Berryman there in 4th, and that's quite good, isn't it, for McEwen points-wise, because there's another car outscoring Sebastian Job. So Peter Berryman here, taking one for the team, as it were, protecting his teammate and also keeping at bay his teammate's championship rival.
The problem is, in race 1, Pete Berryman was between himself and Luke McEwen and Sebastian Job, so it didn't work out in the first race in terms of the championship. So yeah, it's good one way, but then not good the other way.
You win some, you lose some. Yeah. This is Pete Berryman at work, coming out of Coppice, so you're riding with the 4th place driver right now, down towards the S's once again. Quick word about Scott Mokes, still 9th leading AM, 2nd AM Christian Charuta, 3rd AM Guy Edwards, and through that very fast S's. Then on to the Grand Prix loop. Berryman unable to do much about Luke McEwen. You'll find on Instagram Pete Berryman's track guide for Donington. Really interesting to hear him talking about how at different parts of the circuit, here at Goddard's particularly, you've got to be so patient with the throttle the other side of the corner. And that patience is rewarded because it's a good exit, and he's right there on the back of Luke McEwen for 3rd place once again.
I will say, Pete, providing those lap guides week on week for this series, if people are wondering what we're talking about, check out the Apex Racing Team social media. Pete Berryman gives a bit of an insight into a lap around each of these tracks here in the Rafa Racing Club Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. And I can tell you, David, that rain is about to hit Redgate in the Melbourne Loop.
Okay, so the first of those on wets is half a minute behind. And we've got half the race remaining. So what can Will Chadwick, Isaac Price, Luke Pennington as the pros on the wet tyres do? Aidan Walsingham, having been an AM winner early on in the day, is now flat last and really struggling. So he, in his class, has got a lot of work to do. So all those drivers on the wrong tyre are praying for this rain. It cannot come soon enough for them. Those on the slicks that are battling away up front, of course, are about to have a really troublesome last 12 minutes. And it'll be interesting there to see if anybody bails for the pit lane, because that is rather dependent on how heavy the rain is, or whether they tiptoe round to the end.
So officially, we are now mostly dry. So officially, it's mostly dry. Yes, that's still slick weather. Is it mostly dry? Once it gets to lightly wet in session, officially, that's when you know you have to be on wet weather tyres. So I think with the intensity of the rain, I think we're only looking at about a lap. And then you want to be maybe thinking about switching tyres.
Well, you can see spray, can't you? Now you could see it on the straight, and people are going for the pit lane. So we've got one or two bailing for the pits, and that is looking largely wet to me. There are the early stoppers then to try to go onto the wet tyres. So who have we got coming to the pit road? We've got Jacob Toft's in, Gareth Higgins is in, I think Scott Motes has pitted as well, Guy Edwards, Oliver Ettridge, Tim Darracott, so a whole heap of drivers bailing for the pit lane to go from the slicks to the wets. Christian Scheruter is amongst them then. So
top 10 have stayed out, and there is the leader of the wet weather drivers, and they have jumped those that have pitted.
They have. So the race is coming back to them. The rain has arrived at about the right point for them to still have a chance, still be competitive. Now there are the race leaders, and you can see it's the best part of a lap that Will Chadwick has dropped. So, okay, he's been able to jump those to the pits. Caruana off the road, caught out by the slippery conditions at the S's, ran wide through the gravel. I was going to say, Will Chadwick has been able to jump those that have pitted just now, but that was sort of towards the midfield anyway. These are the race leaders. They're going to take an awful lot of catching, even with a pit stop. Davidson comes out of the Melbourne hairpin. There is McEwen under attack from Berryman. That is for third place. Last thing they want to do is tangle and let Job pick up points at their expense, but Job is on the attack. Berryman defends. McEwen third now drops into Goddard's. Let's see whether any of the leaders pit this time. Yes, they do. Leader in, second in, third in, fourth in, fifth in, sixth in.
Oh, they were having to tiptoe around Goddard's to be able to make it onto pit road. Well, is that gap enough for Davidson and Caruana to come out in front of Will Chadwick? There he is at the Melbourne hairpin.
It's going to be close, isn't it? Will Chadwick then heads up towards the left of Goddard's. There's Matt Caruana's car up on the jack. The tyre swap goes on, and Alex Davidson gets away, Matt Caruana gets away. I reckon they're going to be okay to be first and second still in the order. The gap will have come down massively, and of course Chadwick knows what the car feels like on these wet tyres, so there he is. He's up into third place, so that is the save of the day, isn't it? From being way, way, way out of contention, he's up to third. Isaac Price will be fourth, and Berryman has jumped McEwen in the pit, so he is fifth, McEwen is sixth, and down to seventh is Job.
Shows what I know, doesn't it? Those guys started on wet, so it was the right choice. I said all along.
Well, I'm impressed by Chadwick because he has been able to really salvage something out of that, hasn't he? Now we'll see whether or not he's competitive enough to get past Caruana and Davidson. As I say, he's been on those tyres both wet and dry, so he's taken a bit of life out of them, but also they're nice and warm now. Davidson and Caruana fresh into a lap on wet, so suddenly the car feels completely different. If they can do that straight away, great. If it takes them a lap or two to get up to speed and get really comfortable, advantage Chadwick.
It takes them a lap or two to get up to tyre temperature as well, because there's no tyre heaters here. Look at that, to the inside of Isaac Price. Oh, Price on the curb. Big mistake.
Yeah, locked up under braking, didn't he? He braked too hard, too late, and he straight lines the chicane. Now, in theory, he should really give the place back there because he gains an advantage by being off the road. There is Caruana defending from Chadwick. This is for second place, and that's good news for Davidson. He's building the gap while they're squabbling behind him.
Yeah, and there's chopping and changing with Berryman, McEwen, Job as well as they try to work their way past Isaac Price. It's interesting how Chadwick, he's got those hot tyres now, and you can see how difficult it is to see down the straight. It is bouncing down. Do you know what? There's a Yorkshire colloquialism, it's easy for me to say, and it's siling it down.
There's another one, isn't there? It's coming down like park railings. Well, whatever it is, it has made the track treacherous, and Sebastian Jobe is having a look to get past Luke McEwen, but he's not able to do it on the inside at Hollywood, but then the outside of the Craner curves. Is that going to work for him? It is. That's brave. Sebastian Jobe round the outside of championship rival Luke McEwen. Not only is that a really brave pass, that's crucial for the championship.
And he was on the wet line, wasn't he? He was off the racing line, which in the wet weather conditions can just give you a little bit more grip. There's not the tyre rubber down offline as there is online. It makes it a little less slippery. And Sebastian Jobe made that work through the Craner curves. But look at Matt Caruana, he's all over our race leader.
Indeed he is. So Caruana on the attack, coming down towards the S's. He's on the outside though, that's not going to work for him. Davidson fends him off. Caruana almost into the back of him. This should be playing into the hands of Chadwick now, who ought to be able to benefit while they're scrapping like this and holding each other up. Davidson defends. Caruana crowded to the inside, 2 wheels on the grass. That's Larry, and he's in the back of Davidson, gets him sideways. All locked up is Davidson. Exit stage left. Caruana leads. Chadwick's up to second, and Alex Davidson tries to recover, but yeah, he defended, fair enough. It was a staunch defence, but once he got the contact, he was just a passenger. Caruana wide at Goddard's, Chadwick deep at Goddard's. And they're being reeled in, aren't they, now by Berryman and Jobe? And they were miles up the road early on.
Yeah, they certainly were. I'm a little bit aggressive on the defence from Alex Davidson, I feel, crowding Matt Caruana. But Matt Caruana didn't quite have enough of the car alongside, in my opinion, to try and make that stick down the inside. And really, the throttle does work both ways. He should have allowed the space because there was never the gap there.
No, as soon as he got 2 wheels on the grass here, through that crowding, it was always going to be a bit touch and go. But you're right, he was never alongside. And look, a relatively tiny bit of contact on a wet road has serious consequences for Davidson. And that's a real shame after a good drive. There it is again, bang. Just the rear quarter of the car, and he skates off the road.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling that the stewards will take a dim view of that. You can hear the rain falling. It is bouncing down here, and yeah, these drivers they'll be earning their keep in this race. That is for sure.
And Chadwick's dropped back even so from Caruana because he's having to defend from Berryman, and then Sebastian Jobe, look, almost 3 wide coming down towards the S's. That was Jobe on the inside being oh so committed, couldn't do it. Berryman fending him off. Chadwick paddles his way through the puddles at the S's, but Caruana, leader on the road. Whether the wind stands, we'll wait and see. Comes down to the Melbourne hairpin. 4 minutes and change on the clock. What's going on for second place? Chadwick's under attack, isn't he? Because now Jobe's got past Berryman. He's on the outside line, and he's about to try to go for second place in the race.
I think this is new tyres versus old tyres now. I think Chadwick's tyres are done here, and Sebastian is just on another level right now. The McEwen, Jobe and Chadwick all experienced wet weather, not to this extent though, yesterday in the Porsche Esports Super Cup. So they've got a bit of recency here in this car in the wet weather.
Jobe is catching Caruana for the lead, so irrespective of anything that comes of that contact, the gap's coming down anyway. So Sebastian Jobe, who's not done the double this year, he's not won two races at one event, this could be his day. And also to put one hand on that championship trophy. Chadwick then under attack from Berryman, then it's McEwen. Jobe's checked out, he's away and gone, and he's going after Caruana for the win.
If ever we're seeing a champion's drive, it's Sebastian right now here in this race. He's showing why, as you called it in that first race, he is the yardstick right now. He is just an unbelievable. He just seems to have a sense of where the grip is and where it isn't. I would almost say it's almost like his compatriot in the Oracle Red Bull racing team of Max Verstappen. Just has that sixth sense, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does indeed. Ada Walsingham's had a tough time, of course, by being on the wrong tyres earlier, but he's 12th now. And what does that mean? It means he's leading out. Can you believe it? From being absolutely stone last in the race, he's leading his class. Again, he's got ahead of Scott Vokes. And just like it did for the likes of Chadwick and others, the race has turned around for Ada Walsingham.
But are we going to see, like with Chadwick, old wet tyres versus new wet tyres? Chadwick and Berryman making contact, and look, McEwen's not asking him twice to make a move.
He's not, is he, as they go up towards Goddard. So there you've got Will Chadwick trying to salvage whatever he can out of all of this. Comes now out of the hairpin. You can see how much standing water there is around the racetrack as well. But for the race lead now, Matt Caruana, Sebastian Jobe, it's half a second, 2 laps to go. And as they tiptoe their way now down towards Redgate Corner, the cars lapping early on in the high 28s, now in the 43s, 44s. So much, much slower pace.
Sebastian was an entire second faster than Matt Caruana, who's the race leader. Unbelievable stuff. Leo Gariboli, you're watching him, you're seeing his view, and look at how much he's having to put into the steering wheel there just to try and keep the car on track.
Running 6th at the moment, isn't he? And still with a chance of gaining ground. McEwen has got himself up past Chadwick now as well for 3rd place. And Chadwick tries to fight back at McLean's, but Gariboli is reeling them in because you've got a slow car with deteriorating tyres of Will Chadwick. Now that McEwen has got past him, he's going to be released, but it's a bit too late to go after Joe. But one more lap at the end of this.
Can Jobe do it? He's got to within about 7/10 of a second. It's whether he can get right onto the tail of Caruana at the front. There you see the 2 of them. And look at the run that Jobe gets through the foggy S. And yeah, I think this is Sebastian on a charge right now. The thing is, he doesn't need to win this race. He's in a really, really good position in terms of championship points. But look at the launch. He gets out the corner.
And he might yet win the race if any penalty comes Caruana's way. So Sebastian Jobe lining up, feints to the inside, goes back to the outside, wide in, tight out might be the go. But if that doesn't work, it would put him on the outside line for Redgate. So here they come, onto the last lap. Try and steer away from the puddles. Through they go, over the timing line. One more lap of Donington. Caruana versus Jobe. The gap between them, 0.111 of a second. And then they overlap into Redgate. Jobe off the road, into the gravel, back onto the circuit. Hemorrhages time. Caruana gets a free ride onto the last lap. And Sebastian Jobe, a tiny slip, and that's cost him.
Yeah, and I think that's why I said he didn't need to win the race. I mean, Sebastian is a winner. He will want to win every race that he can. Luke McEwen has had issues with others, and Will Chadwick's had major issues. Oh, my goodness. That's
an issue and a half.
That's almost a complete brake failure.
Massive impact into the back of McEwen. So Luke, I think, did survive it. It carried on in the race, but gosh, that was quite a hit. I mean, I'm surprised they've survived that. That should have done enough damage to both of them to really be a big problem. But
I have a funny feeling that that wasn't entirely innocent. Has something happened between the 2 of them that we've not seen? I'm not saying it is deliberate, but it didn't look good.
Discuss later, possibly, yes. Well, the drivers, of course, have a chat channel within Discord. We'll go and have a look at that and see what fills it up. Meanwhile, Matt Caruana is being caught again by Sebastian Jobe, but he's got to survive for this corner and one more, but he's deep and wide at the Melbourne hairpin. Jobe, tighter line. The trouble is, even to overtake, you've got to go offline where it's still very wet and very slippery. And so Matt Caruana leads the way. He makes that run now up towards the hairpin. It would be a 2nd victory for him, a 2nd reverse grid race. Another mistake by Jobe. Up to the checkered flag. Matt Caruana wins race 2 at Donington. Sebastian Jobe takes 2nd. Leo Gariboli is going to come through for 3rd. And as Matt Caruana celebrates, let's see whether anything comes of the incident he had with Alex Davidson, who will battle his way to the line in 6th place. Pete Berryman is 4th, McEwen is 5th, Davidson 6th, David Williams comes through, but it's in fact Luke Pennington for 7th ahead of Williams, and then Chadwick and Price. So Aidan Walsingham is your AM winner. That's an 8th victory, and he was last before the rain came, but he takes the category win. Amazing how quickly things change in the mixed conditions here of Donington. Fascinating racing, but quite a bit to unpack after that, Paul.
Yeah, that was certainly an intriguing round, that is for sure. Aidan Walsingham able to just hang on ahead of Scott Merckx with very battered tyres. 6 AM wins in a row. I do get the feeling that, again, much like Sebastian Jobe, he's not so much got a hand on the trophy, but it's there on the shelf looking at him.
Gareth Higgins was a lap down, 2 pit stops he made, and he put in the driver chat that the game pitted him onto dries. So may not have been what he wanted, but the game put him onto dry tyres. Anyway, disappointing for Gareth being a lap down last place. Matt Caruana wins on the road from Sebastian Jobe and Leo Gariboli third. It's Pete Berryman fourth ahead of Luke McEwen and then Alex Davidson, who led early on, of course, before contact. It was Luke Pennington seventh from David Williams, Will Chadwick and Isaac Price rounding out the top 10 overall and in pro. Fastest lap, as you see, again, going to Pete Berryman, this time a 1:28.685. Jacob Toft was 11th ahead of Aidan Walsingham. He's the AM winner from Scott Mokes and Christian Charuta. It was Guy Edwards next from Dylan Platt and Conan Whean. Oliver Ettridge 18th from Tim Darracott, and then Adam Cox in 20th. 21st was Crofton Woodhatch from Daniel Cofield. Sam Fitzpatrick was 23rd. Gareth Higgins a lap down, and again Eric Grove sadly not getting into the race. So, frustration for one or two drivers, but delight for others. And there are quite a few, Paul, ready to talk about there. 2 races at Donington.
Yeah, well, we haven't got Matt Caruana yet, but we'll hopefully get to speak to him. But we will speak to, while he's available, Sebastian Jobe. Sebastian, pole position, race 1 win. The second race was a bit more interesting, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun up until the last lap. I mean, I think... I mean, I don't know if a penalty will be given for that, but I think it's worthy of one because it's just moving in the braking zone, and then that gave me a massive lockup. But other than that, I really enjoyed that. First time I felt quite quick in the wet, because the first time we had it at Snetterton, I didn't feel super confident, but I think doing the Super Cup practice has helped quite a bit. So now I feel really good in the wet, and it showed. I'm a little bit disappointed I didn't get the win because I felt like I deserved it, and I'm a little bit annoyed about the move, but it was a nice race, and I had some good battles other than that, so yeah, I enjoyed that, and a big well done to Ronald on getting the weather like this, because I know he wanted this exact scenario and it's very hard to get right, so yeah, definitely made for an exciting race, that's for sure.
But in terms of the championship, compared to last time at Knockhill when you weren't on your own equipment, you've had a big swing in points in your favour this time out. That you must be very satisfied with how that's gone.
Yes, I kind of made it my aim today to really make up for the last round. Like you said, not being on my own equipment cost me a few points, so I made sure that today I was going to really make up for it, and I think almost getting maximum points is a pretty good way of doing that. Obviously maximum would have been perfect, but yeah, so I'm very happy with that. I didn't feel super confident for qualifying, but I had a really good lap and a really good slipstream, so it kind of all just fell into place, and I knew my race pace was good, so yeah, I'm very happy with that.
Well, all the best for next week in Super Cup. I know you're not fighting for a championship, but still you'll want to get the wins, no doubt. And all the best for 2 weeks' time here in the GB series.
Thanks, guys. Speak to you soon.
Well, from Sebastian Jobe, race winner, we'll maybe get to hear Matt Caruana's side of things. Matt, I mean, welcome to the commentary booth once again. You were able to get that race win after a 7th in race 1. How did you have an idea as to when the cut-off was for switching to those wet tyres, or was it just a case of feel?
I think it was mostly feel, to be honest. There was that lap where it started to get wet, it was all right, and then yeah, me and Davison both like went off a little bit, and I just lost all grip, and I just sort of felt, yeah, it's time to come in. Both my teammates came in as well, so yeah.
Well, we've heard from Sebastian, who was catching up to you at a rather rate of knots at the end of the race there. We just want to get your side of things. You know, going into Redgate, start the last lap. He says it's moving under the brakes. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because obviously we're racing in the wet. Like, in the wet, you don't just stick to one line. You move back over. I don't know. We'll see what the stewards say, but I'd feel like I was already moving back over before he got alongside me, and we're in the wet. It's difficult to go side by side. It's not going to be like the dry, so I don't know. We'll see what the stewards say.
But very briefly though, this is now your second race win of the season. It's really been a season of two halves for you, haven't it?
Yeah, definitely. It started off not ideal. I mean, my qualifying all season's been a bit rubbish, to be honest. Not really been able to get the laps in, but I don't know. I feel like when I've had the reverse grid advantage, I've been able to capitalise on it. So yeah, it's been a lot better in the second half.
Well, Matt, congratulations. Another race win under your belt there under testing conditions.
Thank you. Cheers.
And from our two pro winners to, well, we only get to speak to one AM winner once again. Aidan Walsingham, hello. We get to speak once again, and it's another two race wins, although I would imagine at the start of that second race, when you're falling down the order, you weren't thinking that way, were you?
No, that was a really risky strategy. I wasn't alone on that. I think so. Isaac, Chadwick, and Pennington, I think, were all on the same strategy. We all saw the radar. We knew it was going to be heavy rain. We knew it was a pit stop, and it can be sketchy taking a pit stop on the slick tires with how quickly the water pulls up in the pit lane here. So I just took a safe, started on the wet tire, and worked out in the end, fortunately.
Well, this is now your sixth AM win in a row consecutively. Brands Hatch, is it just a case of turning up, getting yourself some points, or are you keeping the same mentality and going for the wins? I'm still going to go for the wins, of course. It's good practice, good fighting. It's a lot of fun. But I think the championships rounded up after today. Yeah, because it was 10 points coming into to this week that you had the lead. We'll have to wait final confirmation of the final results, of course. But yeah, I'm sure we'll speak to you next week. But congratulations, though, Aidan, on another two race wins here today.
Thanks very much. Take care.
From Aidan Walsingham, we can now go to another one of our podium finishers here in the second race, Leo Gariboli. And Leo, that looked to be quite the challenge out there, and you were involved in quite an intense battle with some championship rivals, weren't you?
Yeah, it was a good battle. I thought it was quite fun, to be fair. I enjoy these more, the wet rain. I don't necessarily think the racing's better, I just enjoy it more. And to be fair, my race pace was way better in the wet. I don't know what it is. I couldn't get it in dry this whole week, is what it is. But wet, I definitely still had it, so I knew I could fight there.
And then, so looking into this final round of the championship, we've seen you make that step up in performance from how difficult it was in pro last season for you. You've really stepped up. You're now into the main team as well, aren't you? So are we looking forward to try and get the best result as possible for the final round and take that form into the rest of your sim racing year?
Yeah, I think I prefer Brands Hatch anyway, so hopefully it does work out better. Yeah, I think I just had a look. It puts me 5 points away now from losing third, so see how it goes on the last round. I mean, I feel like I could definitely get a better round at Brands. I just didn't have any pace here, really. So if this is me not really doing as best as I can, I'm confident I can really try.
Well, Leo, well done on the podium, and best of luck for 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
And then finally, we're going to have a quick word with a driver who had, I think it's a testing day here today. Okay, we'll go with the good stuff to start with. 4th place after starting 4th in that first race, and you were able to stick most of the race with the leaders. That was a pretty good start to your day, wasn't it, Will?
Yeah, I'll firstly say off. Again, extremely apologetic to the incident that I had with Luke, and I've spoke with him about it, and it was really, really bad from me. But again, I locked all 4 tires with like 40% brake pressure, and I was completely sailing. But yeah, I just need to apologize about that first and foremost. The first race was okay. Like towards the end, it felt like they really turned up the pace, the Apex duo, and I couldn't really hang on. Pace in practice was pretty promising, and my lap in quali wasn't too great, but in the race pace they had exceptional race pace, and I think 4th was the best I could get in the first race after where I started.
And just tell the people at home, how difficult is it to start a dry track on wet tyres and be able to keep some life in them for when it does eventually rain?
Yeah, so I knew it was going to be close on the cutoff in terms of whether wet start would be faster, because these Michelin wets are really, really good tyres. They only lap 2 to 3 seconds a lap off the slick tyre. So I knew it was possible, but unfortunately I got myself into a half spin about midway through my wet stint, and keeping the tyres alive was pretty hard. But in all the simulations I did, we didn't get to red rain, which is pretty chaotic, and I had absolutely zero grip on when the rain started to really fall, and I couldn't hang on. The first initial lap out of the pit lane, I had tyre warmth, so I had the chance to close up to Matt a little bit and maybe have a look at a move. But once the rain started falling, anything into yellow and red rain, which is different levels of intensity, it was honestly, I was just fighting to keep it on the island and trying to maintain my position. Was what I was trying to do. But yeah, I was extremely slow, and I was just trying to hang on for the best. And yeah, I'm really disappointed with the incident that happened with Luke, and I'm very apologetic towards him and Apex Racing Team.
Well, it's good to hear that you've been able to speak about that, but well, all the best for 2 weeks' time at Brands Hatch.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
There we go, David. To be fair, to hold your hands up and say, yeah, it's a big mistake, it takes a certain character to be able to admit fault there at that one.
It does indeed. Yeah, fair play to Will Chadwick for doing so. He's experienced enough to know when it might be able to be argued away and when to hold his hands up, and he may well cop a penalty for that. So as you made the point in the interview with Aidan Walsingham, it's not over until it's over. The stewards may well deliberate, and there might be a shuffle in the results. Well, it's been a rather damp Donington for race 2. We've got one more event to go. It will be on Easter Sunday, the final 2 races of the Carrera Cup GB Esports Championship on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. We will confirm there, but no doubt Aidan Walsingham as the AM champion. Sebastian Jobe looks like he's heading for back-to-back pro titles, and the drama will continue. So if you can tear yourselves away from Easter eggs, we're back at our normal time of 2 o'clock in the afternoon in 2 weeks' time for the final races of what has been a really interesting season, and there are 2 more fascinating races in isolation before we know who the champions are. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time from Donington. From Paul Smith and David Addison, it's goodbye.